What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some gameplay impressions of Wasteland 3. So this is not going to be a full review. I plan on doing one of those after I 100% the game because, frankly, I cannot compete with regular reviewers who get copies of the game before it's even released. So personally, I like to 100% a game and then offer a review, and that's about as close as I'm going to get to a unique perspective, so that is something I like to do, and if you would like to see about that in the future, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. But that out of the way, I want to talk about some of the things I enjoyed about Wasteland, some unique things I thought were really cool that I haven't seen done elsewhere at least, and just kind of give you guys that information. So first things first, the intro to this game is amazing. It reeled me in so hard when I fired it up and played through the prologue, which is pretty short, but it is kind of the intro to the game, and it is really good. Holy cow, such a strong intro. So if you're unaware, in Wasteland 3, we start out as Rangers coming up from Arizona to Colorado, because the Rangers in Arizona are having a hard time securing enough supplies to get by. And they managed to make contact through radio to a figure known as the Patriarch, who rules Colorado. Colorado was spared most of the nuclear fallout, so to speak, as far as radiation goes, because of a missile defense network that was set up to get rid of most of the nukes. However, they are still dealing with a nuclear winter, so it is basically perpetual winter in Colorado. However, despite this, the Patriarch has managed to establish civilization, almost, and in exchange for some help, he promises to send the Arizona Rangers supplies so that, they won't starve to death. So that's how we start the game. We're coming up from Arizona to help the Patriarch. So a decent enough story, no big qualms, but again, this is the intro to the game, so it's not really a big surprise. But your convoy gets ambushed on the way there. So of the Rangers that were sent to Colorado, which numbered 50, 3 of them make it to Colorado Springs to speak to the Patriarch after this ambush. It was very well executed. After the ambush, you go through and, you manage to stop the ambush, obviously, because your player characters are the ones that survive. I cannot speak highly enough of this introduction to the game. Not so much in its RPG choices, just from, a sheer storytelling perspective, it's just so striking. So when you get up to the top of the dam where you were ambushed from, you see one of the features I've enjoyed the most, which was super important conversations in-game. We'll bring up kind of a 3D rendered little cutscene of dialogue, as opposed to the kind of top-down traditional version that you see in CRPGs that you should be able to see on the screen now. And this is really cool, right? So this is something I haven't seen a lot of CRPGs do, but by the way, huge fan, really, really punctuates important conversations. And I genuinely hope we start seeing more CRPGs do this in the future. That's how much I liked it. But moreover, during the middle of this first time that happens, this dude's brains get blown out and it splatters the screen. And it honestly was I should have seen it coming, but it caught me off guard and I was like, what? And then the actual combat starts. And they start playing this old Western song over the combat, real slow. And I was like, whoa, this is an intense introduction to a game. So again, I can't speak highly enough of the introduction. So good. But anyways, you guys get to Colorado, you speak to the Patriarch, and he explains that the help he needs from the Arizona Rangers is to reel in his 3 children, who have basically tried to overthrow him and steal power. And he has so much going on that, frankly, he can't personally go or spare the resources to go round them up himself, so he needs you to do it. But most importantly, he doesn't want them dead. He wants them arrested. So that's kind of the general introduction to the story, and that's kind of where we're going to leave it. This impressions video isn't really to spoil the story. I'm just talking more about how the game actually plays and stuff like that. So in character creation, you get to pick from all sorts of skills, and throughout the world, they manage to integrate those skill checks very well. There was not a single skill that I didn't see represented very well in so many instances. It's honestly kind of amazing just how well they managed to make every skill important. So kudos to inXile for that, because that was very well done. Now, just to sprinkle in a couple of things I didn't like, the loading screens in this game are so long. I don't know what that's about, but I haven't had loading screens this long since 2010. It's nuts. I have a 2080 Ti, a 9900K in my PC. I don't understand why this is taking so long to load. I don't know enough about it to tell you a specific reason or anything like that, but it is noticeably long. Now, something else I liked was The combat is turn-based, of course. CRPG is a very popular choice with them. It's pretty much turn-based or active pause. However, in Wasteland 3, I think what you should call the combat is probably team turn-based combat, because the turns are for each team. That being, your team, the enemy team, and the friendly team. Friendly is all like NPCs who aren't trying to kill you, of course, things you summon onto the battlefield through skills, that kind of stuff. Enemies are, of course, your enemies, and then there is your friendly turn, which is, your turn, I should say, not the friendly turn. And the really cool thing about that is that when it is your turn, every character on your turn gets to go in any order you want. So as opposed to being an initiative-based round-robin system that a lot of CRPGs use, when it is your team's turn, every single member of your team gets to take that turn in any order you choose. So if you're using one guy and you're like, I'd really like to use this other person's attack to soften them up first, you can do that. You can just switch over to them. It's no big deal. And then when all of your characters have taken their turn, your turn ends and then it switches to the enemy turn. So something to keep in mind there. I will say in the higher difficulties at least, I haven't really played on anything below hard so far, so just keep that in mind. On the higher difficulties, I enjoy the combat because A, they turn friendly fire on, so you gotta be careful you're not shooting your guys in the face. Positioning is important. And also, the thing I thought was really well done is you will die in a couple hits. Like, regardless of how good your armor is or your weapons are, if you get shot a couple of times, you're going to die. And I like how they managed to make that almost realistic. I mean, it's still a video game, so there's some suspension of disbelief there. They made sure that your characters, at least, aren't bullet sponges. Now, the opposite problem there is that some enemies are. And, I mean, I get it. I don't really see how they could do it otherwise, per se, at least not my personal perspective from this impressions thing. However, I will say it's kind of frustrating to make sure that, like, your characters can die in, like, a couple of bullets, but I gotta, like, pump absolute magazines into some of these enemies. It's just kind of it just struck me as odd. On one hand, I do like the combat. It's really good. It's very smooth. I love all the skill options. There's stuff I wasn't expecting. Like, you can use your mechanics skill to, like, summon in robots that are summoned in as consumables, which I thought was really unique. I really enjoyed that, actually. And even the skills I thought weren't going to turn out to be that good as far as combat goes turned out to be great. Like, Brawler I thought was going to be boring in a game about, actual guns and sniper rifles. However, Brawling gets amazing towards the end of the game. It kind of sucks in the early game, and they even tell you that during character creation, but Brawling gets so good at the end because you can reduce your attacks down to 1 AP, and you can have up to a maximum of 12 AP just naturally. So you're just getting in tons of hits. And then if you roll luck on that same character, luck will actually sometimes give you your AP back from a move. So I think my max was like 20 hits with a Brawler character in one turn. They get insane towards the end of the game, and that was a lot of fun. And the last couple of things I want to mention. So I didn't like how some of the archetypes that they clearly had in mind are really slow to start. So again, the Brawler is fun to play late game. Using them early game kind of sucks. Like, they don't do a lot of damage. The only good thing about them early game is that their Precision Strike, which is their charged up special move that changes depending on your weapon type. Brawlers get a move called Thundering Strikes, which stuns enemies in a small AoE. So pretty much any stage of the game, that's pretty useful. However, late game, they get so much better, it's crazy. So just seeing like weird balance problems like that, I mean, I don't know that I'd call it a problem because they literally tell you about it in character creation. It's just like, if this is intentional, why? Like, why didn't you try to like make the early game for that a little more fun? Because a lot of people might not get to the end game with that because they think it sucks at the early game because they didn't see the thing in character creation. So things like that I think are going to crop up for some people, definitely. And the last thing I want to mention is choices and consequence. They're there. They are there, and they are done very well. So you can make tons of choices throughout the game. A lot of them I don't want to ruin for you because, again, this is an impressions video, and I want people to play the game because I think it's amazing, frankly. And I don't want to rob you of those experiences. But they are there. They are very good, and it all culminates in the end of the game where you get to see your choices and who is standing by you and your ending kind of culminate in a very satisfying way that I found personally. There you go, guys. That is my impressions of Wasteland 3. A couple problems, but overall, honestly, a really amazing experience, and I hope you guys enjoy it yourselves. If you do, by all means, tell me about it down in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. But thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom, and have an amazing day.